A wise woman knows that her energy is sacred. She understands that not everyone deserves access to her spirit, her time, or her presence. There comes a point in life where preserving peace becomes more important than pleasing people, and that's when she begins to recognize the ones who constantly drain her energy, not with grand dramatic acts, but through subtle, repeated patterns, through the complaints that never stop, through the negativity that lingers after every conversation, through the way she always feels tired, heavy, or depleted after spending time with them. These people may not be evil, they may not mean harm, but their presence slowly chips away at her light. She begins to notice that some people are only happy when others are unhappy. They carry clouds around them, and when they walk into a room, the temperature shifts. It's not just what they say, it's how they make her feel. It's in the passive-aggressive comments, the victim mentality, the refusal to take responsibility for their own lives. They bring problems but never solutions. They feed off attention, constantly pulling her into emotional labor, expecting her to fix what they won't even attempt to repair themselves. And every time she tries to help, she ends up more drained than before. At first, she might think it's her duty to be there for them. Maybe she's the nurturer, the empath, the strong friend who always picks up the phone. But wisdom doesn't come from giving endlessly. It comes from realizing that not all help is healthy, that enabling someone's patterns is not the same as supporting their growth. A wise woman understands that she can be compassionate without sacrificing her own well-being. She learns that constantly being available to others means becoming unavailable to herself. She also realizes that energy is contagious. Just like joy, creativity, and confidence can be shared, so can fear, bitterness, and defeat. And if she surrounds herself with people who constantly dwell in darkness, it becomes harder for her to stay in the light. No matter how strong she is, she cannot bloom in poison soil. So instead of continuing the same cycle, answering the same complaints, giving the same advice, hearing the same excuses, she silently steps away. There is no announcement, no dramatic exit. She simply creates space. Maybe she returns messages less often. Maybe she makes herself less available. Maybe she begins to pour more into herself, her passions, her peace, her own healing. And slowly, the silence becomes her boundary. Not a punishment, not an act of revenge, but a form of self-preservation. A declaration that her energy is not free for the taking. Because when a woman begins to protect her energy, everything changes. Her skin glows a little brighter, her laughter becomes fuller, her sleep is deeper, her thoughts are clearer. And most importantly, her soul becomes lighter. She no longer carries other people's burdens as her own. She no longer feels guilty for choosing herself, and she no longer confuses being needed with being valued. The truth is, some people are addicted to chaos. They thrive on it, and they will pull you into their whirlwind just to feel something. But a wise woman doesn't dance with dysfunction. She sits still. She watches. And when she sees a pattern, she trusts it. She doesn't need closure or an apology to walk away. Her peace is reason enough. We live in a world that often rewards the loudest voices, the most dramatic reactions, the people who demand attention. But a wise woman is different. She doesn't cut people off with anger. She doesn't make a scene. She doesn't shout about who's toxic or who wronged her. She simply withdraws, quietly, gracefully, unapologetically. So many of us, we live uncomfortably because she knows that every moment she spends defending her energy is a moment she could have used to nurture it. And as she begins to distance herself from the constant drainers, she finds something beautiful: clarity. With the noise gone, she hears her own voice more clearly. With the weight lifted, she moves more freely. And with her energy protected, she shines in ways she never could before. That is the power of a wise woman. She doesn't beg for peace. She becomes it. And anything or anyone that disrupts it no longer has a place in her world. A wise woman doesn't just listen to words, she watches behavior. She's learned, often through pain, that not everyone who claps is cheering for her. Some people only show up to keep tabs, not to offer genuine support. Their smiles might be warm, but their intentions are cold. These are the fake supporters, the ones who wear the mask of friendship but secretly hope she falls. And eventually she begins to see them for who they really are. It might not be obvious at first. Fake supporters don't often reveal themselves through big betrayals. They operate in whispers, side eyes, and half-hearted congratulations. They're the ones who go quiet when she wins. They don't share her good news, but they always seem present when something goes wrong. They're around when she struggles, but noticeably absent when she shines. And while they never say anything directly, their silence speaks volume. A wise woman notices that these people seem to get uncomfortable with her growth. Maybe they supported her when she was smaller, more unsure of herself, more in need. But as she rises, as she becomes more confident, more visible, more empowered, they start to shift. They don't encourage her dreams the way they used to. They minimize her achievements, subtly undermine her progress, or pretend not to notice at all. It's not always malice. Sometimes it's insecurity. But either way, she learns not to confuse proximity with loyalty. Fake supporters will often disguise their envy as advice. They'll say things like, "Are you sure you're ready for that?" Or, "I just don't want to see you get hurt." But their concern isn't rooted in love, it's rooted in fear. Fear that she'll surpass them, that she'll evolve beyond the version of herself they're comfortable with. They want her to stay in the role that benefits them, maybe the helper, the listener, the one who never shines too brightly. But the moment she starts owning her worth, setting boundaries, or walking in her power, their support fades. Over time, a wise woman learns that true support doesn't come with conditions. It doesn't shrink in the face of her success. Real supporters want to see her win, even when it has nothing to do with them. They clap when she's not in the room. They lift her name in rooms she hasn't even entered yet. And they celebrate her growth, even if they're still figuring out their own. But the fake ones, they struggle with that. Because they were never there to walk beside her. They were there to walk above her, to feel superior, or to keep her within reach. And once that dynamic changes, the mask begins to slip. A wise woman doesn't argue with them. She doesn't confront them in anger or try to explain herself. She doesn't need to. She simply watches, learns, and lets go. She starts investing in relationships where love is mutual, not transactional. Where celebration isn't awkward and presence doesn't come with a hidden agenda. Where people cheer for her because they believe in her, not because it benefits their image or ego. And once she makes that shift, life gets quieter, but better. The room gets smaller, but warmer. The conversations get deeper, the laughter more genuine, the energy more healing. The wise woman doesn't waste time exposing fake supporters. She doesn't need to call them out or make declarations. She just stops feeding the connection. She no longer shares her wins with people who respond with envy disguised as indifference. She no longer keeps people around just because of history. She understands that loyalty to the past should never outweigh peace in the present. Fake support is a form of betrayal that wears a smile. And for a while, it might confuse her, it might hurt. But in time, she sees the patterns. She sees who only comes around when she's down, who only praises her in private, who mirrors her moves, but not her heart. And when she finally walks away, she doesn't look back. Because a wise woman knows her worth. She knows that real connection can't be forced. And she'd rather walk alone in truth than be surrounded by people pretending to care. Her circle may get smaller, but it becomes sacred, filled with those who pour into her as much as she pours into them. And in that sacred space, she grows stronger, freer, wiser, because she finally made room for the love she truly deserves. The wise woman doesn't let herself be used twice. She might give someone the benefit of the doubt once, maybe even twice, because she leads with empathy. She wants to believe that people have good hearts, that they mean well, that their actions match their words. But after enough lessons, wrapped in disappointment, she learns to spot the pattern, the charm that comes with an agenda, the kindness that has a price, and the conversations that are less about connection and more about control. Manipulators don't always look like villains. Often they come wrapped in compliments, favors, or stories that tug at the heart. They're clever in how they get close. They read her, mirror her, learn her soft spots. They praise her strengths, just enough to earn her trust, and then slowly they begin to take. They take her time, her attention, her generosity. They take her emotional labor, her energy, her presence. And at first, it doesn't feel like using. It feels like friendship, love, or loyalty, until she realizes it's one-sided. The users are rarely obvious. They don't ask for everything all at once. They ask for a little, then a little more. They push her boundaries one favor at a time. They know exactly what to say to make her feel guilty, obligated, or selfish for saying no. They play on her kindness like a piano, pulling out the chords they know will get the response they want. And every time she gives, they take, without thanks, without reciprocity, without thought. Over time, the wise woman starts to feel it, that inner nudge, that quiet exhaustion that doesn't come from doing too much, but from giving too much to the wrong people. She starts to realize that some people only reach out when they need something, that they vanish when she's the one in need, that their loyalty is conditional and their presence is transactional. She starts to see that she was never a friend to them, she was a resource. And when that truth hits, it stings, because she gave with an open heart, not expecting anything in return, but hoping for respect, hoping that her care would be seen, that her effort would be appreciated. But manipulators don't see people, they see opportunity. And users don't appreciate, they expect. So she begins to do the hardest thing she's ever had to do: stop explaining, stop defending, stop giving. She doesn't slam the door, doesn't cause a scene, that's not her style. She just stops showing up, stops replying to every last-minute ask, stops offering help where it's only ever been taken for granted. She withdraws in silence, not to hurt them, but to heal herself, because she's learned that the more she allows herself to be drained, the less she has left for her own purpose. It's not bitterness that makes her walk away, it's clarity. She sees that manipulators don't change when you keep giving them chances. They just get better at using them. And users don't stop taking unless you stop offering. So she sets new boundaries. Maybe not loud, maybe not written in stone, but strong enough to protect her peace. And that's where her power starts to return. She also realizes that being needed isn't the same as being loved. Some people stay close not because they value her, but because they value what she does for them. Once she pulls back, the connection fades, and that tells her everything she needs to know. Love isn't proven through dependency. Respect isn't shown through constant requests. A relationship built on one person giving and the other always taking is not a bond, it's a burden. With every step back, she regains her sense of self. She remembers who she is when she's not being used, not being manipulated, not being drained. Her smile becomes real again. Her energy comes back. She starts doing things for herself, not because she's selfish, but because she finally knows she deserves care too. And in this process, she stops blaming herself. She forgives herself for not seeing it sooner. She honors her heart for trying, and she promises herself that next time, she won't just listen to words. She'll watch patterns. She won't just react to charm. She'll look for consistency because she's no longer available for manipulation disguised as love. She's no longer open to being used in the name of connection. The wise woman knows her value, and she no longer lets anyone treat her like they don't.